G'day guys, this is Jon Sommariva here. I've been a comic book artist for over 20 years now. You might know my work from Batman and the Ninja Turtles crossover, or maybe Marvel Action Avengers, and most recently Neverlanders. And I'm here to tell you that your childhood was trash if you didn't play Nintendo.
Like the first thing I said, I'm like, how the fuck old is he? Like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't pin you to be like old enough to do it for 20 years, at least professionally.
Yeah, I got him pretty young actually. So yeah, I started when I was, I think 23, 24 was when I broke in. Yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm
That means you're like
46
over
now.
40?
So. What's that?
That means you're over 40?
I am. I'm 46. Yeah.
How are you the oldest one here?
I'm on the highway to 50 here.
Jesus.
I agree. I'm with Mike. I wouldn't have guessed that, and I'm not even trying to weasel anything out of you.
That's all right.
It's all the things in Australia that want to kill you that keep all the Aussies young and strapping.
Right.
They always got to be on their toes so they don't die. Like
Yeah.
just going to the
I do hear
bathroom.
that a lot. But let me just say, because this conversation comes up often. Now, we do have the spiders and we do have the snakes, and they're around. They're very dangerous. They're the most poisonous ones in the world. Okay, yes. But you guys have freaking bears, man. And you got mountain lions. And I saw a video the other day of a guy that just got mauled by a bear, and I couldn't believe it. His arms like hanging off and stuff. Like that's full on. That's in your backyard.
Yeah, they usually stay away though.
There's bear sightings down at the end of my road.
Yeah, I ain't doing bears, man.
Yeah, I've had bears in my backyard.
You have?
Deadly snails. Oh, you guys got those.
Yeah.
What's that?
Deadly snails.
Deadly snails. Okay, I haven't heard of that one actually. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, you guys have all of the weird oh, that's a cute little thing. Oh, it's also in that'll kill you. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
It is.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, sure. It's in Australia, of course. Why not?
there's the blue ring octopus. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Yep.
That is a really cute looking little octopus.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. They've got beautiful colors on them. You go to the beach, you're mucking around on the rocks, and you stick your hand in a little rock pool there. There's videos of tourists picking these things up. It's got one of the most deadliest venoms in the world. Like it will kill
Jesus.
You. Literally kill you.
That's usually that's usually the way it is though. Like the bright, colorful, like the frogs, like the colorful, like psychedelic looking frogs. Those are the ones that'll kill you. It's like don't mess with those. That's
apparently they're meant to be really nice. You give them a little lick, takes it to a special land or something. I don't know.
There was an entire episode. There was a TV show back in the early 2000s called Drawn Together, where it was a fake. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember hearing. I remember.
Okay, so it's the episode where they find like a Pikachu knockoff character, and anytime he gets depressed, they lick. He secretes this hallucinogen, so they just keep going. Oh, you're so cute. I love you. Blah blah. Oh no, I don't. And he's like, oh, no. And they get high.
That was one of those those shows that sort of came on a little bit after I was sort of done watching cartoons, I think. So I remember my brother watching it, and it didn't have it actually had a Link sort of character in there, like one of the sort of like a Zelda thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole show was like a fake reality TV, like Big Brother type show.
Okay.
But with a whole but of all with all those characters. So there was a princess who needed saving constantly, adventure. There was a Link character.
The Link dude was totally the gay one.
Super gay.
Betty Boop's like the goth.
Yeah, right. There's a Betty Boop character. There's the Pikachu character. There was just a bunch of stereotypical pop culture characters that were put to live in a house, and then there was a fake narrator,
right?
Who, if I remember correctly, was actually Jim Cummings or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I think I sort of remember it being one of those first, what we might call the irreverent style cartoons, where they're taking the piss out of something, but it was done in a very clever and funny sort of way, So maybe around the time South Park was coming out and that sort of thing, I guess. I don't know.
it played at night after like the adult like 10:30, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock ballpark on Comedy Central.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think for a while it actually played directly after South Park.
Right.
But that's kind of what like allowed the success of South Park and like Family Guy for a while, or like what allowed that to kind of come out there. And yeah, it was something. Like the fact that somebody like, I don't know many people that even know that it was a show that existed, let alone that it lasted 3 seasons and a movie.
There you go.
Oh, geez.
But so it was a lot of fun. It was a weird, bizarre show to find out that somebody else even knows its existence outside of my friend group is kind of funny.
Well, you definitely tapped into a very recessed and lost memory in my head, because I honestly haven't thought about it, and it literally would have been like a flicker, and it might have even been that Pikachu episode for some reason that stands out to me when you mentioned this. I don't know if that was a recurring character or not, but I do remember, seeing a little bit. My little brother was super into it. He used to watch it all the time, so that's how I knew about it.
My brother did too, but he's 8 years younger than me.
Same.
So he only watched. Yeah, he only watched it because I watched it.
Oh, right.
Because I let him watch a lot of things a kid who was like 12 or 10 or whatever should not have.
Yeah, that sounds right. You see, when you're the older brother, you have to pave the way for the younger ones.
Right.
You're there, and you're not allowed to watch any of the cool stuff. You're not allowed to go out with your friends. You're not allowed to do anything. But my younger brother, he got away with everything. He would go out drinking with his friends and bring girls home, and my mum wouldn't bat an eyelid. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, my parents kind of did something similar, like schoolwork wise. Like they kind of gave up on me because they realized I wasn't going to do homework, and they were like, "You have to
Nick's not going anywhere."
Yeah, but like my little brother started getting homework in like middle school, or like late elementary, early middle school, and he's like, why doesn't Nick have to do his homework? And they're like, oh, we gave up on him. We don't care about his homework. And I was like, yeah, take that, Kevin. He's my little brother. And he was like, I don't want to do homework either. Can I give up? And they're like, no. And I was like, yeah, go do your homework, nerd.
Fair enough.
It's all worked out. I'm the baby. And I got away with a lot of shit.
Oh, okay.
There's times where I'd come home when I was 16 with like 4 of my friends, and I'd just be at midnight, and I'd be like, all right, just sleep on the floor. I'm going to bed. And my mom would wake up and just see like a bunch of like guys just laying on the floor in the house, like in the living room and stuff. She'd be like, oh, hi. And just like go about her day, go to work or whatever. And,
good times.
I mean, with the
I mean, we're out skateboarding. We weren't like doing drugs and shit, but that's,
which is weird because I definitely equate drugs with a lot of skateboarders.
Yeah, one in particular, right?
I meant like local. I'm not even talking about like professional skateboarders. Like there's a lot of local skateboarders that definitely got into a lot of hard drugs, and they definitely tried to offer it to kids at the skate park. So it was like that weird like. Afternoon special like happening like in town, and I was like, luckily I had a lot of friends who went to the skate park and knew that if my brother or his friends got into anything, they'd have to do like, it was a fun time. Anyway,
they should be at home playing Nintendo, man. They shouldn't be out doing drugs.
Well, I was at home playing his Nintendo because I got a PlayStation, he got an N64, and then I just started playing the N64 a lot, and then would not let him play. And he's like, "But it's mine. I'm gonna go play your PlayStation." I was like, "You go in my room and I'll kill you."
But yeah. Look, I when you guys were asking me to pick a topic, I probably went through. There's a million different things that I was like, we could talk about any of this stuff. And I listened to a couple of episodes that you guys had done, and I could see straight away where. Sort of around the same age group and grew up on all the same things. Like I listened to the Mega Man one, and pretty much like every sentence you guys were all saying, I'm like, yeah, that's me too. I did that. Yeah, like that sort of thing. So the reason I chose Nintendo was because it's one of the things that was such just a formative influence on me, and something that really got me into drawing, actually, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, nice.
Before I even knew what comic books were, so it was a love that I had before getting into what I ultimately ended up doing with my career and that sort of thing. And just thinking about going back to the nostalgia and everything, like those feelings that I would get, it was just the Nintendo that did it for me. And look, I don't know if you guys want to, if you'll indulge me, I'll tell you how I first came.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Nintendo,
Love it.
How I first saw one, and then how I ultimately ended up buying my first Nintendo, which was an interesting story in itself. Sort of, I don't know, maybe you think it won't be, but
let's hear it all.
So basically, all right. We lived in Western Samoa at the time, so I was about probably 10, 11 years old. We're talking around 90, 89, 90, that sort of year.
Sure.
And I'd played computer games before, but we didn't really have computer games in the house. My parents just weren't that into it, and they thought it was a big waste of time and that sort of thing. They didn't want their kids sitting there playing games all day. So the only exposure I probably had to games at that time was I had a couple of friends that had a Commodore 64, and I remember just going over to their place, and it was like this magic world that was there, and like I legit would wake up at midnight at my friend's house and go and fire up their Commodore 64 while the whole family was sleeping and just play games, silently by myself, because I just had this passion for it, like games. There was something about them. I just wanted to really play. I don't know if it was because I wasn't allowed or I just really liked them, Anyway, so we're living in Western Samoa, where it's a tropical island. There's no traffic lights. There was no McDonald's. There wasn't a lot of. We didn't have any TV stations or anything like that.
Geez.
And my younger brother, he was friends with a kid who lived up on the top of the mountain. He was a bit more of their family was quite well off. And we went to pick them up one day, pick my brother up. He was staying at this guy's house, and on the TV, they were playing Super Mario Brothers. So it's literally the first thing that I saw, and my mind was just absolutely blown by this game. Just the sound effects, the music, the level.
Yeah.
You're eating mushrooms, you're getting big, you're jumping on these
it's a huge jump from a Commodore 64, man.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that it's this, this side-scrolling adventure, you're going through it, and it just hit all the right, exact little, I don't know, dopamine releases and all that sort of stuff in my brain, and I was hooked straight away and just wanted to play this game. And so, I kind of, in a sneaky way, became friends with that kid as well. So I'd go over there and hang out. And so the three of us would be there. And he had actually one of those, it wasn't really a Nintendo. I think it was like a bootleg Famicom sort of a thing that had, 300 games on it or something. So we would play all the different, little games and all that sort of stuff. But Mario was just that one that really, really stuck with me, And then shortly after that, I became friends with another kid that had one of those same things. And so the second game that I really got into there was Mega Man. And I remember he was playing Mega Man 2 and just being absolutely, blown away by this concept of different, robot masters and, you choose the level, go and attack them, all that stuff. So all of these things, I would get little drips and drabs of game time. So we're talking about maybe once a month I would get to go there and play for a couple of hours. And then I'd daydream about it, for the whole time in between. To the point where my way of dealing with that was actually to sit there and do the drawings, draw the things that I remembered, and so I would start creating my own comic books about, this mushroom kingdom and all this sort of stuff without knowing that even what comic books really were at that time, Anyway, so then we'll fast forward to later on. We came back to Australia, and my brother and I, we would sneak off to the room and we would daydream about buying a Sega Master System because we'd see these Sega ads on TV. I think you guys call it Sega. And we would see the ads on TV, and we're like, "Yeah, let's buy it. Let's buy a Sega. Let's go and discuss our plans." And our plan was to save up money, which probably would have taken us, 10 years before we could have afforded one at the time. And anyway, and then at some point, I did start working. I think I was doing a paper route, and I started earning like a little bit more money. And I saw this Nintendo, which had this mushroom game that I remembered, Mario. And so I ended up teaming up with my older half brother. I remember we were walking through the shops, and I said, I really want to buy this computer game thing. Let's get it. And so we bought the Nintendo there. And because we weren't allowed to have it in the house, I actually took it to my grandparents' house and we hid it there. Even though I bought it, I wouldn't dare tell my parents that I had it because I thought they'd probably just chuck it in the bin or something. I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
And so I remember the first game that we bought was this. It was this weird helicopter game, which I looked it up because I was going, what was the name of that game? No one's ever going to have heard of this game. It was called Mission Cobra. And it's like a cheap bootleg version of like Twin Cobra, like one of these, vertical scrolling shoot 'em up type games.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Okay.
And the reason I bought that was because it was $20 and it was the only game that I could afford, because back in those days, the games here in Australia would cost $80 each, 80 to 100 actually, for one of those 8-bit cartridges. So the plus side of that was that these games, you would play the shit out of them. You could only get one game every 6 months or something like that, and so you'd become an expert at whatever game it was at the time that you got your hands on. And if you bought a dud one, too bad, you got stuck with it. You'd end up having to finish, I don't know, Wizards and Warriors or something like that, and that actually wasn't a bad game.
Wizards and Warriors.
No, that was a good one.
Yeah. And anyway, so then eventually I came clean. I think it was after about 4 months I came clean to my parents, and I told them, look, I actually bought that thing. It's mine. Is it okay if I bring it home? And they're like, all right, yeah, you can bring it. And from that point, it was just like just staying up, sneaking out of bed, going to play the games, all the time. And there was that like I was a bit mean to my younger siblings. I used to make them sit there and watch while I was playing. I wouldn't really share it too much, but I'd give them a go from time to time. And that was it. They were the very early days, just that I remember really sitting around, huddled around the Nintendo, and then for just that feeling at Christmas as well, getting a game was amazing. I remember getting Mega Man 3, which was really probably one of the biggest games for me influentially in terms of drawing, because the actual little manual that they used to come with, it had all these really cool Mega Man drawings in there, that sort of style. And that's where I learned about Capcom, and I love the music that Capcom creates, and I love the art that Capcom creates, and that it just became a massive influence on my style, really. To this day, it's a lot of the stuff I do still has a lot of those roots in it,
I can, now that you pointed it out, I can see it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, now that you pointed it out, I'm like, oh, that explains a lot. Like, all the little chibi characters you do, but which are great. They're all phenomenal.
Thank you. So a lot of the chibi stuff, like, I don't know if you guys remember, there was Capcom put out for a while there. They had these games called Pocket Fighter. What's that?
Okay, Puzzle Fighter.
Puzzle Fighter, yeah, Puzzle Fighter.
Yeah,
Puzzle
okay,
Fighter, yeah. It had a few different names.
Play Tetris and like fighting stuff.
When I used to, but basically around that time I was hanging around the arcades quite a lot. So that was the thing, after school you'd just go into the bus interchange, and that's where all the sort of rough after school kids that their parents didn't care about would go and hang out. And because I didn't really have too much disposable income in those days, I would just sit there and watch other kids playing games, but the whole time I was there recording, like watching Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, Turtles, like all this sort of stuff, and just recording the way that these drawings were done. And I would literally just go home and draw again, Street Fighter comics, all of this sort of stuff all the time. And it was there were, I don't know, there were good days going to the arcade. I remember it was quite fun hanging out there. Yeah, so what happened was I became buddies with the guys that used to own the arcade and used to run it. And sometimes the companies, they would send them promotional material, to put around the shop, like posters and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they had one time was a Capcom calendar. Like 1 year they sent this calendar, and it was amazing. Like this had all of that rare artwork that you would never see, but it was beautifully printed on these big, calendar sheets.
Yeah.
And so I think I was just begging the guys, to give it to me once they were done with it, and I ended up keeping them. And just seeing the chibi style, it just really spoke to me. It sort of had a bit of a graffiti sort of a look about it, and it was just something that really sung to me. That's basically where that whole chibi sort of style came from for me. And that's kind
awesome.
of it's become a pretty big thing these days. You see it a lot in comic books. Definitely, it's made its way in there.
Probably because everyone playing Puzzle Fighters is the kids, and
yeah, like Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo was a game that my friends and I played a large quantity of.
Oh, okay.
There's actually a mobile game that they put out for it, like on your Android, like on your iPhone or Android, and I played that because it didn't require the internet.
Yeah.
So like, if I didn't want to turn back before unlimited data and whatever, right? Like I was like, I don't want to. I'm just gonna play this when I don't have data. And it's a blast. But I remember that game, and I too have had like a weird obsession with the chibi stuff for a long period of time. So I think that's kind of why, like when I saw your stuff over at Granite Con, I was like, this is it. And it immediately, like, you're telling me that, or you're telling us, not just me, you're telling us that like you drew the like the influence from that, before it was even that, and that makes complete and utter sense now. Like it all circles around.
Yeah.
I do think I still have my copy of Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo somewhere.
Oh, cool. All right, how about this? This is a little underground thing, because this is also another big influence on the chibi stuff. But a friend of mine, he got his hands on some, I don't know how he found these, but they came from somewhere in Asia, and they were these Bandai Street Fighter cards, but they're all done in chibi style. So you can find them out there, if you look on eBay or whatever. There's, they're made by Bandai, and they're chibi Street Fighter cards. There was like 3 or 4 different sets that they did of these things, and we managed to get our hands on about 20 cards or something like that. And as soon as we saw them, we were drawing that stuff, copying those drawings and doing all that sort of thing. So it's definitely a huge influence in those early days, because this was all literally before I even discovered comic books, which happened for me quite later on in life. That's wild. And because originally my goal was I wanted to be a pilot. That's what I used to say anyway. I thought I wanted to be a pilot. And then one day, I think it was my granddad, because I used to do a lot of drawings, at home, things to do with my family, all that sort of stuff. Little funny strips, things that would happen around the house. And then, of course, all the Nintendo stuff I was drawing. Yeah. And my granddad said, what, maybe you'd like to be a cartoonist. Like, it looks like you really like drawing quite a lot. This is when I was about 12. Awesome. And literally the first thought that popped in my head was, if I do drawing, I literally don't have to study at school anymore. I don't have to do homework. Like I just have to get good at drawing. And it's such a weird thought that I had at 12 years old, but so kind of my laziness is what got me into this, which and now it's anything but a lazy person's job.
I was gonna say laziness, but like you guys gotta bust your ass for your art. Like, so it's anything but lazy. Joke's on you.
Yeah, joke's on you. You do more work now.
Yeah, you should have just studied.
Exactly. Yeah, but as they say, that cliche, if you love your work, you never work a day in your life. And the truth is, I absolutely love doing it. I love doing it to this day. And there's not a day that I'm sitting here and I'm not excited about what I'm doing. Like the only thing that comes into play is when you're tired, like you've been looking after your kids or whatever it is, and sometimes there are days where you're like, I wouldn't mind to go and have a little sleep now, but I can't because I've got this deadline. And that kind of sucks. But aside from that, I would have thought that my excitement levels would have gone down a little bit by now, having done it for as long as I have. But I feel like I'm still just starting, if you know what I mean. Like I'm at that point where I'm like, I still got something to prove, you know, and I want to get my stuff out there. But
anyway. I mean, even if you love the output, right, whatever you're working on, it's that gratification at the end, seeing it all come together, right? I'm sure when you get a book that's coming out and you get like the first copy in your hand, that's probably like just like euphoria, you know, streaming out, like all this hard work and like, you know, you see this amazing creation in your hands, you know, that took you months to do.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and I do remember in the very, very early days when I first saw my work published, like printed in a book. I remember being shell-shocked. I remember going to the comic shop, and the guy goes, "Oh, your comic came out," and he hands it over to me and puts it over the counter, and I stood there staring at these pages for 20 minutes, half an hour, and I didn't say anything, and he goes, "What's wrong? Like you look like you're not happy," and I'm like, it just doesn't look how I expected it to, because in my mind, I first of all, I'd been staring at these pages on a computer screen for months and months and months, you know. So it was just, by the way, this is all just my inexperience, because I didn't realize that what you see on the screen will be different to what's printed on a piece of paper. What comes out on paper, the colors are never going to be exact to a monitor. Let alone from monitor to monitor, it looks different. But in those days, I was just looking at it on this one monitor, and that's exactly how I thought it was going to come out. And somehow that led to me being very disappointed, you know, with what I had done. And you know, I look back at it now, and it looks very raw and all that, but there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's just it wasn't exactly that, you know, and it was my own expectation. And now that I've been doing it for as long as I have, and you know, you quickly learn, okay, there's sort of a ballpark where you want it to land, and if it lands within that ballpark, great. The print quality, all I'm really looking for is not exactly what was on the screen, but rather clarity in the art. You know, I want the art to look really nice and clear. The colors shouldn't be muddy. You know, the fonts should be really nice and legible. I want the paper to feel nice, like all that sort of stuff. And the publishers just do a really fantastic job with all of that stuff. You know, they're on top of it, and we've come a long way, you know, over the years. So there's you know, been leaps and bounds in printing technology. So you get some really good quality stuff now. If we're honest, I mean, you remember back to the newsprint days, you know, and you're lucky if the page actually even lands in the center of your comic book, you know. These days it's pretty exact to within just a few millimeters, you know, and it's great. But
I think we've talked about it before, mentioned it before, but like I kind of miss those old days, like those old comics, right? There's nothing like that feel and like the smell of that old like newspaper comic, you know. Like the new ones are great, like the paper, like you said, the paper quality. It's like it's thick, it's smooth, it's shiny, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
but there's still something about like those old comics that like, you know, you feel like it's something great in your hands, you know.
What do you attribute that to? Like, because I think I spend way too much time thinking about this stuff while I'm drawing all the time. But do you think it comes down to, is it just straight up nostalgia that we're feeling because we remember the amazing feeling that you got getting those comic books back then, you know, and how exciting it was to take it home and read it and all that. You know?
I think it's a mix of that and like knowing that it's something of a previous time, right? Like holding something that's, you know, 30, 40, 50 years old, you know, depending how back you go, it's not just that piece of art, it's that history behind it too. And I think that mixed with the nostalgia is what does it for me, at least.
No, I 100% feel those exact same feelings. Like I've recently put together a full complete run of Iron Man Volume 1. And you know, there's something cool about going to the comic book that came out the month that you were born, the year and the month that you were born. You know, it's a pretty crap issue, but you know, I still enjoyed reading it and feeling that old gritty, you know, 70s paper and all that sort of stuff. But look, I the flip side to that is I do you cast your mind back to the Marvel comics, for example, that were coming out at the time. I would have been buying a lot of Marvel stuff, and it just the logo was right, and it was uniform across the board, and the comics just had they tickled your collector's gene, or whatever it is that we have that makes us collectors.
Yeah.
Everything could be put into a set. You could order them, bag and board them, and they're in a long box, and you flip through them, and the numbers are consecutive, and all of that stuff is really fun.
Yeah.
It's like, collecting cards. Whereas I feel like that's something that kind of is missing, mostly in the mainstream books at the moment, because it's a little bit of a mess in a way. Like going. I think they just announced Uncanny X-Men 700, but really it's X-Men issue 35, and you're like,
okay,
how does this fit into
they reboot a bunch of
scheme
times,
things,
and
But then you had like
look,
5 different stories simultaneous at the same time.
Yeah, see, that's
too. And I'm like, does this play into that? Like, does this come with this? Like, nothing like. Nothing against any of it, but it's just kind of like
it gets convoluted.
It's convoluted, and it makes it hard, like you just said. Like, there's comics that come out and issue 1 is not issue 1. It starts at like 301 or whatever, and sometimes it's a joke. Like Deadpool did it as a complete and utter joke. I forget what series it was, but it was sometime in the past like 5 or 6 years. They started like something, and I was like.
Jesus.
All right.
Now, I would like to say as well, while we're on this topic, that I do think that there's some amazing books that are being published at the moment. Current.
Oh, absolutely.
And some of the stuff is as good as anything that's been out there.
Yeah.
We're kind of seeing this age dawning on us of the writer artists, which for me has always been, to me, they're my favorite people working in comics. Are the people that can write and draw their own material, it's something that I'm hoping to do, one down the line,
double threat,
but it's just that pure version of our art form, and I love that. So there's I could list off a whole bunch of names and titles and things that I'm enjoying at the moment that are current day, but I do feel like we can do a little bit more. And who am I? I'm just a guy doing my own thing, here in my room in Australia on the other side of the planet. But I feel like we could really tap into that collector's mentality and make these books more appealing by having, the uniform spines so that you can have a nice collection on your shelf, and making these beautiful collections of all this material. You've got Spider-Man going back to the 60s. Why don't we have Spider-Man Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and it's all consecutive, and it makes sense, and you can start from the beginning and collect them over the years, and read through them and all that sort of stuff, I'm currently buying Dragon Ball comics at the moment, which
nice.
I've been reading with my son, and
like the old 90s comic books,
like from the 80s, I think, Dragon Ball, the original version,
okay, the old Dragon Ball. Like, but are you talking about the comics or like the manga?
The manga, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm buying the collected volumes, not the know, whatever it came out in back in the day. I don't even know where you would find them.
They had they had manga books that came out back in the day, and
okay,
just like that was actually the first time I saw Dragon Ball. Was a buddy of mine was like super into anime, and he had some Dragon Ball manga, and then Dragon Ball Z, like a year or two later, came out on TV, and like we've talked about that a number of times. But like he used to have the mangas and stuff like that. So that's but at some point in time in the 90s, I picked up some Dragon Ball Z comics. I found them recently, and I was like, I don't remember buying these, but they were physical, like they were actual, like comic books, right?
Oh,
like, they're actual comic books.
Yeah, right.
So that was why I was like, were you talking about like the books or like
right. Yeah. So my preferred format that we've been going with are the big supersize 3-in-1 volumes. They're a little bit larger than the regular manga style, and they're fantastic. Like we're just having such a good time going through them. But relevant to what we're talking about here, you can literally go back and buy Dragon Ball Volume 1. That's it. That's the beginning.
Yeah, nice.
And then there's a full set with 6 volumes or whatever it is, and the spines match. It looks great on your
Yeah,
shelf. You
yeah.
know.
So it's a mix of like that OCD, right? Because I'm the same way. I
Mm.
like sequential, I like orders, and it's easy to collect, right? I mentioned it before where I used to collect comics, and then I got out of it for like 10, 15 years because I
Okay.
just got sick of it. It's like I like this run of X-Men or whatever. Okay, but now to continue the story, I got to buy a random issue of X Factor, a random issue of X Force, a random issue of Generation X. Like, I don't want to do that. And it got too complicated in my mind to chase this stuff down. And then in my
Yeah.
long box, like random comics, and it's like, I'd rather just be X-Men one, issue 201, 202, 203, 204 to finish that run instead of jumping back and forth. But I've only recently gotten back into collecting comics, mainly because it's
You're
the
welcome.
nostalgia. All my childhood's coming back in comic form with like Duke, Cobra Commander, Transformers, all that. Like it's all
This is actually
Thundercats.
his
That's just coming back, and it's like it's that nostalgia bug,
Yeah, right.
right?
Okay, so you're talking about really, really recently. You just started getting back into reading comics in.
I mean, I had a couple here or there. I got like the Last Ronin trade and stuff
Okay.
like that. But and I have this thing where I want issue 1 of old comics that were made from like cartoons,
Okay.
right? So like Master of the Universe #1, Thundercats #1 from
Yeah.
the 80s and stuff. So I have a few of those, and I'm slowly trying to piece that together. I got a list of like 30 comics that I need to
Yeah.
get.
Right. Okay.
Um,
That new Transformers series that Daniel Warren Johnson is doing is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah,
fantastic. It's so good.
yeah.
I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything like that, but there's the moment, and I'm not going to give it away, but it's for anyone that hasn't read it yet, you should definitely get this comic. And
Yeah.
at the end of issue 4, there's just this big moment. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like it's to
I
do
haven't
with
read it
Optimus
yet. No,
Prime. Anyway,
I have. I'm current with the issues, but I'm not current with reading the issues.
oh, okay. Matt.
So
So this Transformers comic is probably the first comic in a long time that because I've basically switched over to just buying trades now. I read trades because I love getting the story all in one go.
yeah,
But with this Transformers one, it's actually taken me back to the days of I'm hanging out for the next issue to come out, and I want
oh
to read it
nice,
straight
yeah,
away as soon as I get it. I'll read it, and just
yeah.
enjoy it. So
And I
it's
heard
really cool.
it's intertwined with like Duke and Cobra Commander, those
Yeah,
comics. But what I like too is again, I like easily digestible. I don't want to chase down issues, or if you miss an issue, like oh shit. Like I like how like Duke and Cobra Commander are just 5 issues. That's it. That's just like a limited run. But what hooked me is I think we were talking to Rich Woodall about it, and he's the one that mentioned the Transformer comic. Then I look into it, and you look at the art, and I'm like, this looks like it was drawn in the freaking 80s. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
holy shit! It's not it's not the greatest, most amazing drawings you've ever seen, but it's 80s, and that's what I wanted. And I was like, oh shit! Like, all
Yeah.
right,
It's a weird cross
I'm in.
between. It's that weird cross between what we were talking about before, like John, when you asked about like what's the like why do people have that love for the like that old newspapery comics, right? And it was that old gritty. It was like printing has come a long way. There are so many comics out there that are absolutely phenomenal. So we are not actually like knocking any of it. Like
No, not at all.
I buy more than I have the capability of reading. But that Transformers comic, like Mike said, Rich told us about it because I think it both fell off of our radars because we've been focused on other things, and we both fell in love with the style, and I have both picked them up. But it's that weird cross between it's like that new paper style, new color, like new printing, glossiness, paper, like it's that new print style, but everything on there, like Mike said, looks like it came out of the 80s. So they were like, you two have a baby, and now that's what we
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's the nostalgia of like that's my childhood is that stuff, and that's what I kind of want to like bring back. Like even like the all like the variant covers and stuff for especially for Transformers. I don't want the ones that look modern. I want the ones that look vintage and retro. And unfortunately, I had to make sacrifices because I missed a couple issues, so I had to go back, and it's like, all right, well, the vintage 80s looking one's like a $35 cover. I'll go get the $8 one, you know. So I just picked up issue 2 today, and unfortunately, I because that was the only one I was missing, and you know, unfortunately, it's like a modern cover, so I'm not too thrilled about that. But again, that was $8, not the $35 one or whatever that looks like 80s. So like sacrifices have to be made, but I'm still happy with it.
I did see an interview where they were talking about something, you know, like a stipulation that they had going into this project, where I think they did talk to Hasbro and say, we want to make sure that we're able to use the original G1 designs. That's what we want to go with, and it was obviously the right call, because I think that's what we all want to see in a Transformers comic, you know. And just the story's great, you know. It's just I think so. Daniel Warren Johnson, he's definitely one of the guys that I'm talking about. That you know, he does the writing and the drawing, and he is absolutely smashing it, because he's great at both departments there.
Nice.
And you can see what he's doing. He's great at weaving a story where there's you know, emotion and drama and all that sort of stuff and character development happening, but it's all. He's just writing himself action scenes to draw, you know, just cool shit. This is what I want to draw. And so he's figured out a way of doing it. And now we've got, I think he's big into wrestling at the moment. And so the Transformers are literally doing wrestling moves on each other, you know, just smashing each other with all these cool, you know, clotheslines and things like that. And it's just so perfect. Like he's absolutely nailed it. And with the next arc, they have another artist who I really love his work, who's Jorge Corona. And he's done a lot of work with Scotty Young and that sort of thing, and just fantastic artwork. Really, really great. We're in for a treat with that book, and yeah, definitely a cool one to have on your radar, I think. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I'm between that being my childhood coming back in print, and then talking to people like yourself, like that's why I'm like back into comics, like so, like god damn it, like, and I didn't want to, because it's that, like, I had, you know, that bug from like 15 plus years ago when I was collecting comics, and it's like it's that itch of like Pokemon, I gotta collect them all, you know. So like it's kind of like revving back up, and I'm like, no, I gotta because I collect toys. That's my main thing, is collecting toys. So it's like I can't go super deep in both. Mm-hmm. So right now there's a lull in new toys coming out that I want. So I'm like, comics.
You gotta pick your battles, you know. And look, for me, I started buying comics out of habit for a while there. So, you know, from the time that I first started collecting, I was super into them. I treated them like little, you know, treasures. Each one, I would get them from the comic shop, and you know, I would spend time on each page. This is the days of McFarlane drawing Spawn, you know, and I would study each page as I was going along, and I would read and reread and reread, you know, these books, because it feels like I had a lot of time back then. I don't know. And then
we were kids. We all had lots of time.
Yeah,
like you said, play video games for hours on end, and like, I probably should. Oh, is it dinner time? I remember eating a bowl of cereal for breakfast. That sugar carried me all the way to dinner time.
It used to be summertime, and I'd be playing video games, and all of a sudden, like, it's 5 a.m., the sun's coming up. I'm like, shit, I should probably go to bed.
I definitely have plenty of staying up very late stories with Nintendo stuff. But one that I can tell you, actually, that's kind of funny, if we're going back to that topic. But
yeah.
With so around the time that this would have been GameCube, when Super Smash Brothers came out.
Okay.
And we used to play it on the 64 and all that sort of stuff. But with the GameCube, that version, Smash Brothers Melee, it had something so addictive and special about it, and we discovered this mode, which was just super sudden death. So it's just constant super sudden death. So you're basically on 300% starting the match, and all you got to do is touch the other player, and they go flying out of the screen. And so it was myself, my brother, and one of my best friends. We just had a house to ourselves, and basically for a year, like no kidding, for a year, all we did was play Super Smash Brothers.
Nice. Yeah.
And we sort of had like, jobs in between. I was doing a little bit of comic stuff here and there, but for the most part, we were just living in this house. And during winter, I remember we would crank the heat up like really high, just like it was summertime. We'd be sitting there, in our undies and just playing Smash Brothers and making bets with 10-cent coins, that sort of thing.
Oh, geez, nice.
And then the bill came in, and it was about $5,000 for the heating bill, and that put an end to everything.
Yeah, I'd say. Holy cow.
But yeah, I've got a lot of fun memories of playing that, back in those days, and it was all about the taunting, like
yeah,
we were savages to each other, like
100%.
The meta game. So you're playing the actual game Smash Brothers, but the actual game that's happening is you are trying to get under the other people's skin, to the point of driving them crazy, like
psychological warfare.
I once, my brother, I remember one time he, just rage quit and just smashed through a wall in the house, which we then had to plaster up. That was pretty bad.
Oh, jeez.
There was a time when they pissed me off so badly that I'm not super proud of this, by the way, and I'm not a violent person for the record, but I grabbed the coffee table and I ripped the legs off it. And then
video games would do that too, man. Holy shit! Especially if you played that first like Turtles game on the NES, like holy fuck!
Oh my god, yeah,
the underwater fucking level, like god damn it, like that. I'm pretty sure I put a hole in the wall because of that level.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah, that was a really hard game, actually. I remember, but again, as we were saying before, because it was in the days of you could only get that one cartridge and you had to play the crap out of it. You just got good at it, and you actually. Do you guys remember playing Mario 3, for example?
Oh, Mario 3.
There was no saving in games back then. Like you had to play the game all the way through, and once you lost all your lives, back to the beginning. Like that's how it worked. And so I remember there was there's times where your parents would come in and it's dinner time. Turn that thing off, and we would just turn the TV off.
You don't understand.
Put like a little sticker over the power button so they didn't know it was still on, because you had to just leave it there and hope that it didn't freeze in that time when you came back. So.
Yeah, I mean that's why I liked Super Mario All Stars for the SNES, because it saved, so you could play Super Mario or Mario 3 and it actually saved. That was a joy.
Was that what was the first game that you were able to save on? Was it Mario Kart? I think there was some sort of I don't know if that was I think I remember reading it in some Nintendo magazine. But anyway, one of the first ones that had it. It could have been Mario Kart, but the cartridge itself had an actual battery in it. That's how they used to save, because it wasn't like any memory or anything that was on the console itself.
Yeah.
What about
I remember a lot of games on the Super Nintendo where you beat a level and it would give you like a 12-digit code. So then you can go so when you start it back up, you go to the main screen, you enter the 12-digit code, and then you can start that level. And I remember like if you ever got like Nintendo Power magazines like that, they would have like the codes in there, so you skip the levels and shit. I remember doing stuff like that and trying to get past it. And then God forbid you beat a level, you're playing and then you forget to write down the code, or the screen switches too quick, and you're like, shit, I better not die. And then of course you always do.
Every Mega Man game, I always lost the piece of paper with the code on it. I was
it wasn't an easy code system with that either. Like you had to put the little balls in the grid, and I think I probably, because you only stuff up once. Once you have the first stuff up, you figure out, okay, I got to get a system down here. So I would have a pre-ruled up, little grid paper there ready to just quickly draw the dots in,
Oh, you're smart. You're way smarter than I was.
Same here. I remember having like that, like the code coming up and be like, shit, and like running to get a piece of paper and a pen, and I come back and you get like halfway through and it goes away and you're like
I at least had the piece of paper and pen with me and just always screwed it up somehow. It was horrible, but I think, like you mentioned, the freezing of the system. My buddy and I were up until like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. playing like Super Star Wars. And we were like,
nightmare of a game, man. All three of those.
It was, but we did so good, and we paused. We're like, all right, we're gonna go to sleep for a few hours. Like I'm not kidding. We were asleep for like 3.5, 4 hours tops. And we got up and the game was froze, and we just kind of looked at each other, and then we were like, all right, well, maybe we're just doing it wrong. Let's go eat breakfast and then we'll come back. It was gone.
No. Yeah, and they were pretty notorious for stuffing up just at the wrong time, you know, when you were like really far into a level, or and every now and then you'd find like a little glitch, you know, like if you I remember there was one game, Looney Tunes, that we used to play, which probably isn't, I don't know if that's the most popular game, but it was on the SNES, and it was where you had that Buster Bunny, I think he was called, the little blue one.
Buster Bust Loose.
Yeah, that's the one, Buster Bust Loose, yeah. So
I love that game.
So my friend and I used to play this game, and no matter what happened, he whatever his way of getting through this particular level was, the game would always crash and freeze on a particular frame. And then I would play the exact same level, and I always got past, and we didn't know what he was doing, but he discovered this one bug that only happened when he was playing the game.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really
funny. I don't remember that game, but I used to love the Looney Tunes basketball game. Like that was super fun.
That game was so fun.
Yeah,
but yeah, the Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose. It's funny you mentioned that. I was actually just flipping through TV tonight, and I completely forgot that they dropped a new Tiny Toons TV show last year.
Oh, did they? Okay, I didn't know that.
It's called Tiny Toons Luniversity. It's on Max. And I was like, a lot of the same voice actors came back, but they did try to switch it up a little bit with some of like the newer voice actors, because they're in college, so it's not like they're in like elementary or middle school or whatever the original one was. But but yeah, it came out like last year.
Okay. It's interesting because this is another one of those things, going back to sort of what we're talking about, but I don't think TV shows and cartoons have that ability anymore to just become sort of like a cultural sensation anymore the way they used to. And all I can put it down to, I don't know if it was the same in America, but here in Australia, we had somewhere between 3 to 5 TV channels. That's it. So the city I live in, we only had 3 channels. So everybody was watching the same TV shows. Everybody. And it becomes part of the culture because and reference points and everything, because we're all watching the same thing. So it's very relatable to everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas now, you know, you know, my son probably watches more than anything random YouTube shows. That's
insane.
Who knows where they come from? You know, there'll be some bootleg version of Bluey doing all sorts of things that Bluey's not supposed to be doing. You know, I'll catch him watching it, and I'm like, "What is this? This isn't the real Bluey, you know." Or Peppa Pig, it's a bunch of weird Peppa Pig stuff, you know. It's kind of sad in a way because I feel like there's probably a lot of really good stuff out there that never gets the chance to thrive and become well known and popular as it should be, to the point where we get, you know, extended seasons of this, whatever this thing is. You know, everything's just so niche, it feels, you know.
It's ridiculous too, right? Because even back in the day, you know, Nick and I have talked about this at, you know, length of, you know, Thundercats season 1, 64 episodes or whatever. It was ridiculous back then. And nowadays, like, we get nothing, right? I think I saw an article the other day saying that X-Men 97 is going to be the longest running Disney Disney Plus show, original show, 10 episodes.
Right.
Like, they're raving about, this is the longest one, great, because everything else was like 8 episodes or 9 episodes, and this one's 10. Right. Like, it's like, that's pathetic. Like, you know, can we at least like 12, right? Like 12 to me seems acceptable. I'd rather have 24, you know, but you know, we have fewer episodes, and then seasons are longer apart, and it's like, you know, I could make the excuse for them of being like, well, quality takes time, but it's not like most of the stuff's quality either, you know, like compared to, like, you know, back in like even early 2000s, you know, we still got some quality stuff. But now, like, I watch a lot of cartoons and I try and get into them, and it's like, you know, like
I can tell you of some good ones. I can tell you of some good ones that I've discovered that
good new ones.
But I think they're sort of aimed a little bit more at our sort of age group rather than kids. But
what are they?
Did you see Arcane on Netflix?
No. Hold on. How's the animation though? Because I can't do the overly computer animated stuff that just seems lifeless and dead.
All right, no. This is not. It is far from lifeless and dead.
Okay.
It's 3D. It's a 3D animation, but the style of it is like everything has been painted. You could freeze any single frame in this show, and it will look like a beautiful digital painting.
Oh,
the style of it is amazing.
Hold it up.
It's actually it's tied in with League of Legends, which I know almost nothing about. Like, it's not a game that
I've seen ads in front of YouTube for it.
But the story is awesome, and the way I would recommend to watch it is do three episodes at a time, because they're like 3 movies, and so it's 9 episodes all up. That one you can't go wrong with. Arcane, definitely watch that. The other one is Blue-Eyed Samurai, which came out recently. That one's fantastic. Like, again, it's a 3D production, but the rendering of it is all done like it's a 2D painted. It looks like cell animation, and awesome story, beautiful drawings. There's definitely some good stuff but you got to dig. You got to dig a little bit. And I think Netflix is right now really just starting to do some good stuff. The new Scott Pilgrim cartoon, I thought the quality of it is great. I haven't finished watching the whole thing, so I can't comment on the storyline. But the drawings are beautiful in that one as well. So
I've actually seen previews for both of them. I hit my Netflix, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to that someday. And I'm a little bit more lenient on art style than Mike is. Right, but it's the quality in most cases. Like you just said, it's like we get 6, 8, 10 episodes, and then we wait whatever for another season, maybe because nobody plowed through it in the first 48 hours it existed. The streaming service decided to cancel it because they're like, nobody's watching this. You canceled it before it was even out a week. Like, I hate that because like how are you supposed to build a following?
See, I like that instant gratification where like it's right there. But my thing is, if I do that, I can't digest the episodes and I completely forget what happened.
Right.
I've noticed that where I've binged like a season of like 10 episodes or 8 or whatever, and then when it's over with, I can't name half the characters. Like 1 or 2 stick out, but that's it. But then if I watch an episode, let it sit for a couple days, watch an episode, let it sit, I retain it. I remember what happened because I can like digest it and lock it in. So I hate that mentality, and I know Nick's right. I know that's what they look at is how many views within the first 48 hours or whatever, and that's usually what determines the sequel or the success, which it's great. Like, they greenlit Avatar season 2 and 3 on Netflix. But that's another thing where like I watched the whole thing. I loved it. I digested it. I watched an episode, gave it 2 days, watched another one, and so on and so forth.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think with these, especially with these 2 that I mentioned, Arcane and Blue-Eyed Samurai. Especially with Arcane, I would, like I said, watch it in 3 episode chunks at a time, so you can let it digest, because then you get like beginning, middle, and end of each arc. The quality, like, there is no way you can fault the quality on these, no matter what. Like, it is top-notch level animation, and they are putting love into everything. And it actually has been greenlit for another season. So both of those actually they've already announced. So that and I think that speaks to the quality, because somehow these manage to rise above all the noise, everything that's out there. There's so much,
Arcane looks like you ever seen the video game Borderlands?
I haven't seen too much of it, but I'm familiar with the name.
Got the movie coming out.
Oh, really?
But that's what Arcane looks like to me. It looks like Borderlands style, which I love. So that's pretty cool.
I'll have to check it out more. Yeah. See, so I was I definitely started out as a big time gamer, I would say, and I've always been big on Nintendo. Obviously, that's been my thing. To this day, I still play, with my Switch and all that sort of stuff. But there's been there was sort of a lull in my gaming as well. Like, I never got big into a lot of these modern games like Fortnite. Basically anything past I think Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. That was probably like the last, full-on multiplayer shoot 'em up sort of game that I got into. But the problem is, I know that I have a bug in my head that will get me addicted to games very easily. And none of the comics exist if I start playing games, So.
Yeah, don't play games, please. Don't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my kid would have a conniption.
That's right. You would not believe the amount of people that I hear from, which is amazing. I'm so happy that this happens, but so many parents that I hear from that are saying, my kid is really waiting for Neverlanders 2. Is it coming out? When's it going to get done? And I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm working on it. It's because we do
podcast. It's taking me away from it.
Because the Neverlanders stuff comes out as whole big graphic novels, and these things are close to 200 pages. It's a lot of work to get done before it sees the light of day.
No, of course. Don't worry. I gave him a timeline on how things really work in reality. Now he's like, "Oh, that's a bummer," and I'm like, "Yeah, but understand, like, there's other things." Like, I had to explain it to him, but he got it. Like, I'm sure, like, other parents get it too, and kids on the other hand. But the kids these days they're used to the whole, okay, well, I want the next thing, so I'm just gonna go get it now, right? Like, like the TV shows or the video games. It's like
it's not just kids, man.
Video games with microtransactions. Like, I don't want to do the RPG leveling up. I'm just gonna go buy the super sword or whatever in a video game, and I don't want to actually grind 1,000 hours to, like, I don't want to have to go kill magic pots in Final Fantasy VII to level up my materia. I could just spend $20 of my mom's money or whatever. I can get Knights of the Round.
Right. To play shit. Yeah.
I feel like I've got to wait, because I'm 100% completely immune to any temptations of buying things on a mobile phone or anything like that. But I can see how it works, because we had a phase there where my kid, any game that he was playing, any ad that popped up while he was playing that game, he would straight away come, "Oh, I want to get this game. Can I get that one? Can I get that one?"
They know what they're doing. I started
noticing that, and I had to, and then he'd come to me as well with some of the YouTube stuff and go, they keep telling me to subscribe. Can I subscribe to this thing? Like, comment and subscribe or whatever. And I'm like, I go, listen, buddy, this is all a scam. Everything's a scam. Everyone's trying to scam you. This is my way of first teaching him caution.
Oh, of course.
Of course, you're gonna have to differentiate what really is a scam, what isn't, all that kind of stuff. But just right now, at his age, it's easy to go, everyone's just trying to take money out of your pocket, and they're not going to give you anything for it, And then he's 7 now, so he's just turned 7.
Oh, definitely, yeah. All right,
he's the lesson that I have prepared for him in the future is, one of these days he's going to come to me soon, I know, and he's going to ask for one of these, buy me the super sword, or I need that skin for this, or whatever it might be. And he's going to pay for that with his own pocket money. So he gets a bit of pocket money. He does jobs around the house and that stuff. He's going to pay for it with his pocket money, and he's going to see that within an hour it was a useless waste of money, and he doesn't have his pocket money anymore. And then he'll, I think, hopefully, if I have done my calculations properly, he'll realize, okay, this is not something that you should waste your money on.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It'll take a couple hits. I did the same thing with my kid. I was like, here's your birthday money. Like, I'm not going to stop you if you want to go buy Roblox or whatever. Right. God, it was like a year and a half ago now. He saved up like all of his money for a long period of time for a big Lego set.
Oh, cool.
And then he took forever to build the set. Like, he built a bag like every week or whatever just so he could extend it out, because he's like, I just lost all of my money on that. Like, I'm talking like the $130 AT-AT. I'm not talking like an $80 set. He it was a large set anyway. But yeah, so it's a solid plan, but it's going to take a couple hits.
Yeah, that's I'm a big Lego collector as well, so I've nice. Got but at the moment, because I'm in this smaller sort of studio, I'm in the process of making myself a proper one out the back. But once I have that, I've got so many Lego sets, saved up, ready to build. I've got that big the UCS Millennium Falcon. That's going to be a fun project I'm looking forward to. But yeah, and I can't wait. Like just you talking about, spacing out the bags, one a week and that sort of thing. But it just takes me back again to being a kid and just the excitement of building Lego at that time. I do remember that. I think part of the fun of it though with something like that is I would build it and 100% just smash it. Like, I don't know, throw balls at it or something and smash it into pieces, and then you can like build it again. And it's part of that's the cool thing about Lego. It's not just you build it once and then let it collect dust, which is what I do these days. But
yes, as a kid, I never did that.
I don't want to take it apart. Sorry,
I built it and I left it. Like, I never took stuff apart. And
really?
I would just build it per the instructions. I would never deviate and stuff like that. And like, I was a fun kid. I had a good childhood, but like, I don't know why I was like that.
That's funny. Yeah, we so like I was telling you guys before, when we lived in Samoa and we just didn't have computer games or TV or any of that sort of stuff. So one of the big things we used to do was build a lot of Lego stuff. And my older half brother, he came to stay with us for a little bit. The same one that helped me smuggle the Nintendo to my grandparents' house. And he built this amazing, just a jumbo jet out of all of our Lego. And to me, it looked like a full-on realistic model because it had, the flaps on the wings, they would work, and you could retract the landing gear.
Put some engineering into that sucker.
He did, yeah. And funnily enough, he's an engineer now, and he does inventions and stuff for hospitals and all that sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
He's a very clever guy. But anyway, what we used to do was we'd play this game called Flight Simulator, where someone's holding the plane and the other guy's the pilot, and you're giving instructions. All right, you got to put the flaps down. All right, put the throttle up. We're going to take off now. And part of the fun was if the person made a mistake in giving instructions and you just smash the plane into a wall, and the bits go flying everywhere, and then we're quickly repairing it and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, pretty fun.
Now that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I got very fond memories of those times, and yeah. Anyway, so with the another one of the things I wanted to tell you guys about with the Nintendo stuff that related quite a lot to the comic book stuff that I do as well. So there's a particular book which I'll show you guys. This actually was one of my life-changing things.
Oh shit!
I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but it's this was a bunch of comic strips that actually appeared in Nintendo Power magazine.
Yeah, I think I had that.
Just the artwork in these it's just amazing, beautiful, colorful.
I remember those comic strips.
Yeah. Well, you can actually still buy this collection. At the time when I got this, it was super rare, and it just wasn't readily available. But now they've I think somebody's republishing them. And so I used to sit there drawing a lot of this stuff. But I'm sure when I tell you this, I'm sure you guys would have been the same. But when you're a kid, so I'm talking about sort of between age 10 to 15, maybe even a bit older, you got to pick a team. You don't get to be a Nintendo and a Sega guy. You got to choose one or the other, And for me, like I was anti-Sega. Okay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like so all the comics I used to draw was just Mario torturing and fucking Sonic the Hedgehog up and all that sort of shit. So
nice.
I got a lot of drawings of Sonic the Hedgehog being decapitated and all these sort of things. Do you still have them? I've got them somewhere. Yeah, I need to. Awesome. I need to look through the old boxes and find all of these things. I want to see them.
I think it's
pretty funny. I think a sign of maturity is actually when you grow out of that and you realize, you know what, I can listen to two different genres of music.
I was a Nintendo kid for sure.
I don't know.
The only thing I cared about for Sega is they had that X-Men game on the Genesis. I forget what it was called, but you could be like Nightcrawler and you had you can actually teleport through walls and stuff like that. And that's the only game I ever cared about on the Genesis. I never had a Genesis. I never played that game. So, but other than that, I was strictly Nintendo.
I'm not even familiar with that one. I'm not aware. We had a Spider-Man and the X-Men on the SNES, which was another one of those really hardcore games, that you had to get good
God.
at. Like
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum
yeah,
Carnage. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I think that came out. I didn't actually play that one, but there was a really good arcade game by Sega, which was Spider-Man, which I've never really seen an emulation of it done. For some reason, it was like Spider-Man the arcade game, and the sprites were really big and colorful and really good looking. That game, but I've never seen a successful MAME, emulation of it or play this game online or anything like that. So I haven't checked in a few years, but it was always one that was always missing from all of those arcade collections and everything.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the game I'm talking about? Have you ever seen it?
No, I remember like the X-Men one, the X-Men arcade game, which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
but,
so there was that X-Men one. Yeah, it was made by Sega, and it just the graphics stood out because of how big the characters were on the screen. It was before we really saw a lot of that sort of game, because it came out around the same time as there was a Avengers. I think it was like an Avengers West Coast game or something like that. You're checking it out there, Nick? You found some screenshots?
I pulled up the Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
It was multiplayer.
Yeah. Was it? Multiplayer.
I think so.
I used to play that Captain America game all the time. I used to love I used to like play as Vision or whatever. But starting it off with Captain America still needs your help.
Yeah.
I like the sound.
I always played as Iron Man, of course.
Yeah, and I was always Vision. And it's like, who
wants to be Hawkeye? Lasers, man.
Why'd they even build Hawkeye in it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that game was sort of towards the end of arcade times, I think, and a lot of places they sort of started doing that thing where you'd pay, like $10 and you could play unlimited games for a few hours.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember finishing that Avengers game, just mashing all the way through it. You die every 5 seconds and then you're starting again. But that was a pretty cool game.
Yeah, I played that a lot. I played a lot of Street Fighter, a lot of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, to be exact.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't cram any more words into that title.
How cool was it that the whole thing with Akuma, happened to be like this April Fool's joke that they did in a magazine or something, and then people just loved the idea so much that they actually made it happen. Did you know that whole story?
No, what is that?
Yeah, so because I think it was because Ryu, when he defeats you, he would say, Master Shenlong, something about Master Shenlong.
Yeah,
and so in this one of these magazines like EGM or something like that, they put a thing for April Fools that if you completed the whole game without dying or getting hit once, and then you defeat M. Bison at the end, the bell will crack that's in the background of M. Bison's stage, and Akuma will come out and you'll have to fight him, except he was called Master Shenlong. And so Capcom just loved the idea because so many people heard about it and thought that it was real. There was a lot of urban legends about that game, actually, but anyway, this was one of the ones that became big, and so Capcom actually included then Akuma,
that's awesome
character. Yeah. And I think that's exactly how you used to access him, was that if you made it through the game without dying, Akuma comes out of the bell, bashes up M. Bison, and then you got to fight him, so yeah,
that's awesome.
Cool.
Jesus, yeah. I don't know where I was introduced to him, but I always loved Akuma. Like I was like Ryu and Ken were my guys, and then it's like, all right, well, Akuma's like a demon like version. Like, all right, this is cool.
Right. He's got all the same moves, except he can do like air fireballs, and he's got the raging demon attack. That super move where he just kills you in one go, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, Street Fighter was just a massive influence on me for sure, and definitely a big one that I used to sit there, watching in the arcades all the time and all that sort of stuff. And I remember the very first game that I played, actually. So over here it was 60 cents. That's so 3 20-cent coins. That's what it cost to play a game of Street Fighter. And and I chose Blanca because I thought he was like a cool monster. And first round I was up against Chun-Li.
Hold down and mash B.
Oh yeah, well, it didn't matter what I did. I just got smashed straight away and lost my money very quickly, and then I probably didn't play again for about another year. And actually, it wasn't until when that game came out on the SNES, I bought my SNES literally when that came out, and the American version came out months and months before the Australian version did. So we actually have a different system to you guys, and we can't play the American games on our system. Yeah. And so what we had to do was buy this special converter that would allow you to play American games on it. And so I remember it was my brother's birthday, so my mum sort of helped out to buy Street Fighter because she wanted something to entertain the kids with. And like my mind was blown. We had Street Fighter at home. Yeah. And it looked exactly like the arcade. I mean, it's not as good, but it looked the same. And I remember calling my friend, I was like, man, it's the exact game. I've got Street Fighter. It's at home, and that's where I actually got really good at the game. But so I'm actually more of a gamepad Street Fighter player than a joystick. I can't really do anything with the joystick. So
I'm not great with the joystick either. I've always been, I understand like some people do it, but I was better off with the controller. I'll be honest, my fighting game of choice has been Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for the Dreamcast. For God knows how long.
On Dreamcast?
On Dreamcast.
Yeah, awesome. Nice.
Like, so Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was just an amazing game.
Yeah.
But I annihilated that game. I spent hours, when I say hundreds of hours, I'm not kidding, playing that game on the Dreamcast. And then when it came out on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, people were like, oh, we could finally get it. And I was like, yeah, but I've had it for like years at this point. And then people were playing it, and it wasn't the same. Like, it didn't feel the same. Like, it was clunkier and stuff like that. Something about the way the Dreamcast ran the game just made it that much smoother. So it felt like the home version of the other two games wasn't even like the same as the arcade version.
Yeah.
So, but I played that. That was my game.
I think that iteration of the game, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, was probably the best one. Like, I think that was the height of those sort of games. Yeah. That had Mega Man in it, didn't it? And
Roll.
And Roll, yeah. Yeah. That monkey character, I think her name's Son or something like that.
Yeah.
So one of the topics that I first wanted to talk to you guys about, I was going to throw you a curveball originally, which was going to be this monkey TV show from Japan. That character in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, her costume and everything is based on that TV show.
I think someone else brought that up before.
Yeah, well, I don't know if someone else did, but I originally was going to get you guys to talk about that one because it's the Journey to the West story and all of that. But then I thought, man,
someone brought it up.
If these guys watch that TV show, they are going to just think it is absolutely crap. It's pure nostalgia for anybody from Australia and the UK, I think. But anyway, I just thought let's do something that more people can relate to. I think so. But yeah, that TV show. Oh man, I just we all grew up on it, and it was like the first exposure to martial arts and all that sort of thing. So it was kind of cool. But when you brought up Marvel vs. Capcom, it just made me think of that character because for me it was like, look, they put Monkey in the game now. It's so cool. Yeah.
Like, that was it. Is like they put so many characters in that game where you're like, I don't like, where's that person from? Like, that game just had so many characters, so many unlockable characters. Like, what was it? There was like 4 characters that you had to do like 1,000 hours of like battle training. So I would legit just turn it on, go into battle training mode, and like go to work.
All right.
Or like go to bed. And then I'd wake up and it was like, oh, you did 9 hours of it. And I'm like, sweet. So I would do it, like, it would take forever, but I would do it. But yes.
That's a good idea.
I was like, anytime I sat down with my friends to do it, I was like, we were just kind of like, oh, this is odd. It's not that fun. So when I figured out, like, I could just turn it on. I think I did it accidentally. Like, I fell asleep with the game on once, and I was like, it clocked all that time, and boom, right then and there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, yeah,
So
but no,
on Street Smash Brothers Melee, it had a similar thing where certain characters would unlock depending on how much you played. We never left the console on. We actually reached those crazy hours by playing the game.
my buddy had a GameCube, and we played that constantly. And I got more obsessed with the mini game versions in Melee because I was not good at the actual game. I was really good at the mini games where, like, you had to figure out something and like hit the dummy
with the baseball bat.
Yeah, like 1,000 feet, and it was like figuring out these weird combinations to get it to go far. I was really good at that, but if you asked me to pull off that same combination to smash that dummy that far, like on a player, nope.
Yeah. It's different when they're moving. No, we would have other friends and eventually girlfriends and things like that would come over and watch us play that game and just had no clue of what the hell they were watching and what's going on because it is just so intense and convoluted and you know things flying. Like we would play it on the craziest mode possible, you know, which was that Super Smash mode, but, you know, with frantic items so that there was just items falling the whole time and you're using them and, you know, you had different ways of dodging them and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, anyway, that was pretty cool. But the Dreamcast was actually I think it was a really underrated console, the Dreamcast, I have to say. Like, the version of Street Fighter 3, did you ever play that? I think it was the only console you could get that on until very recently.
Alpha?
It had all the alphas on it too, yeah. No, but I'm just talking about Street Fighter 3, like the one that, you know, there was actually 3 versions of it they released. There was Street Fighter 3, then Street Fighter 3 Part 2, which was like Giant's Attack or something like that. And then Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which that was like the complete game. Yeah, and that game was awesome, man. Like that's probably the best version of Street Fighter that they ever released. For me, I say that because I love the 2D animation, you know, the 2D sprites and the graphics and all of that. Yeah. So from Street Fighter 3 onwards, they actually went to 3D models, the games are cool, but it just doesn't look as good as what it used to. You know, we're talking about the heyday of Akiman and Bengus, you know, the lead designers from Capcom that just had an amazing style, such an influential style. There's so much of that made its way into modern comic books and all of that sort of thing. And I love their design sense, you know, like in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you've got the big cactus character, you know, and these like if you have a look at you've probably seen it because you read it with your kid, but the costume designs in Neverlanders, you know, like it's all that's all just Capcom, you know, like the stuff that I loved from back then. It's boiling it down into those characters.
Yeah. Like I didn't put the two together, but knowing more about you now, having, you know, talked to you for this length of time, which has been great, it makes a lot more sense now. I can see it like all over there, which is great because I also absolutely loved Capcom as a kid. And you're right, Dreamcast was a massively underrated console for multiple reasons. Like,
another one I never had.
For example,
really?
Did you know could burn a DVD or a CD and you could play and you could have a Super Nintendo emulator and other emulators play on it?
Yeah. So back in those days, it was all about you know, to pirate games, you had to sort of find, you know, these dodgy copies of CDs and all that. But you had to actually put a boot disc in to be able to play the pirated ones. You know, there was this weird technique that you had to have down pat, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I still I actually found my binder recently of all my burned Dreamcast games, and right at slot, it's like one of those two. It's like top bottom, and then you fold it, and it's like 64 CDs or whatever. Right there, slot 1, boom, boot disc.
Yeah.
As it progressed, the people find with the ISOs got smarter and figured out how to put the boot disc information it needed onto the CDs. So not all of the games required a boot disc and then inserting it, but
Yeah.
And
so here I'm thinking I'm thinking I'm cool playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater and knowing that if you start the level and you open up the PlayStation and you put in a music CD, you can listen to your own soundtrack while skating.
That was cool though.
That's fair. I mean,
I thought I was
cool
slick
too.
doing that, and you guys like, oh, we fucking just burn CDs back in like the late '90s and ripped games. Like, okay.
Did you guys both play Super Nintendo very much?
Oh, yeah. I love my like I went. Like we talked about it, like you said, you had to pick a side: Nintendo, Sega, right? Like straight up Nintendo all the way. And then PlayStation came out, and a buddy of mine bought it before I did, but he was a bigger Final Fantasy nerd than I was. Like I loved my SquareSoft RPGs that cost way more than they should have for an early '90s video game, but they were all Final Fantasy wasn't I didn't get into Final Fantasy.
Okay.
So my buddy brought over his PlayStation and Final Fantasy 7, and then I was hooked. That was it. And then I got obsessed with it, got the PlayStation. Dreamcast came out, and I think I got my Dreamcast. Like they dropped the price to like $150 or whatever, and I ended up getting it. Had some like Walmart gift cards that were gifted to me or something like that. So I got that and like Jet Grind Radio and
that was good.
Power Stone and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Jet Grind Radio, the game where they teach you how to skate around and illegally, graffiti things.
The graffiti, yeah. That was right up my alley.
Jesus,
that was very cool. But that's funny. Yeah, I had a very similar journey. So because for me it was the SNES was that was probably my first, like my number one console, I would say. Just the feeling of nostalgia that goes with that one, and just the quality of the games. That the graphics when they came out, that Super Mario World when it first came out was just absolutely
my God, that was a game changer.
Yeah, it literally was. Yeah, and I'm not sure. Maybe with Mario 64, they also managed to sort of push the boundary, but nothing's had that same impact that game had, when it first came out, in the same sort of way. And anyway, so SNES, and if you guys have time, I would love to go through my little list of games that I did and all that sort of stuff. But
it's funny.
But yeah, I remember grabbing a really super cheap Dreamcast. So that was the first time that I went over to the dark side and got myself a Sega console. But it just had some of the best games. Like I said, Street Fighter 3, that was the only one that you could play it on. There's one called Cannon Spike. I don't know if you remember that game. No. But that was a really cool Capcom game. It's got Mega Man and it's got Cammy in it. It's got Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins in it. Just all these really cool characters, and it's quite fun. Anyway, the game that pushed me over the edge with PlayStation, because I don't know if you know the history of PlayStation, but that came about because of a disagreement between Sony and Nintendo. Yeah, Sony was originally developing a CD console for Nintendo, and they had a falling out over who knows what. I think it might have been actually Nintendo wanted to keep using cartridges, and Sony wanted to go with CDs because they also produce CDs, something like that.
Yeah.
And so
I forget the exact reasoning too, but
it's like Nintendo almost created their own worst enemy, because PlayStation has been massive, like since that time.
Yeah.
They have brought their own, brand to the table, so to say, like the way that PlayStation games are. But for me, the one that tipped me over the edge was Abe's Odyssey.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
Oh man. I love the imagination in that game, and just the whole, I don't know, the cutscenes, that would happen, these 3D animated cutscenes, they were just so good quality at the time.
Yeah.
They were, and that game was something different that like, because it wasn't cutesy, it wasn't like it wasn't a sports game, and it wasn't cutesy, and it wasn't a fighting game. It was this weird, you know, what is that type game. It was like a weird creature on your screen, and like the first time I played it, one of my brother's friends brought it over. Like he had it, and I was like, what is that? So I played it. I was like, this is a really fun game. But yeah, no, I could see that being a reason somebody picks up a PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, so I think at the time I was actually studying 3D animation. Because that was something that I got into before I actually did comic books. And so the cutscenes were just mind-blowing, you know, for the time when they came out. It was those ones and the Blizzard stuff, you know, the stuff that they were doing before, you know, StarCraft and Warcraft. Just the little animations that they had, you know, and they were just mind-blowing at the time.
Those are super
I have
cool.
a DVD set of them.
Oh, you do? That's cool. Well, do you like? So this is we're going back to the 56K modem days. So you'd probably have to wait, you know, half a day to download the little clip, you know, just to watch the intro of the movie, you know, before the game was released, just the advertising for it. But that game, the just the graphics and everything was so good in Abe's Odyssey, and the actual game mechanic itself it's just a reskin or a clone of Prince of Persia, you know, going back to that sort of style of gameplay where you have, it's almost like you've got set movements. So if you press forward, it's not like Mario, where Mario will just move a smidge if you just touch the controller. With Abe's Odyssey, if you press forward, he moves forward a whole step. It's one step, you know. Yeah. And then if you hold it down a little bit harder, then you run, you know, like that sort of thing. And it's just the way the game mechanic actually works. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then that was another one that we got heavily into the pirating of games, I remember. So I had there was this kid that we used to call Fat Cat at the arcade. And Fat Cat had all the connections for, you know, putting the mod chip. Yeah, he had the mod chips that would go into your PlayStation, and then what we would do is we'd go to the video store, so like Blockbuster, or over here we had one called Video Easy. You'd pay your a particular membership fee, and you could just rent all the games that you wanted to. And so every day I would go back, I'd get a game, go to Fat Cat, he would copy it, then we'd go back. Oh,
Jesus.
We had every game, like every PlayStation game, you know? And that's how Blockbuster went out of business.
Yeah, right.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of did something similar. So, buddy of mine ended up getting his PlayStation modded entirely for the video game Thrill Kill. Which, if you don't know, is a game that was banned in America because of how bloody it was.
Okay.
But was available in PAL versions as opposed to NTSC versions.
Okay.
So he got it modded. I think another buddy of ours did it. And he came and we started playing the game. And then I started looking into it because I had a computer that had a DVD burner. Or CD burner at the time, and I started looking into figuring out how to do it, and then we did exactly that. Is like we went to Blockbuster, or there was another place called Video Matinee in town, and there was like another one, and we would just go rent video games, and then we'd copy them, and then I burn them to CDs, and then I probably still have a hard drive somewhere with God knows how many things. And I'll be honest, I did the same thing with the Wii.
All right.
I got my Wii to be able to download games onto my hard drive. So all my opened Wii games, I loaded straight up to the hard drive, so I don't have to run them off disk anymore. But
so Nick, are you saying you're the Fat Cat of your circle of friends? You're the one.
Yeah, kind of. It turns out, yeah, apparently, because I was also the guy who had all the ISOs for the Dreamcast. And, look,
damn it, Nick.
What?
Why didn't I know you back then?
A buddy of mine worked at EB Games, so he would, and they were allowed to borrow games overnight
awesome.
or whatever. So he'd borrow it, come over my house, like PC games. Another buddy of mine was better at it than I was, but I got pretty decent at it. So like we like computer games. Like we just had them all, and then we'd have LAN parties, and we'd infinitely share God knows how much data between all of us across, and we'd like video games, we crack them so that like you just take it from a hard drive. We like one of us would share our drive on the network drive, and everybody would just copy the install file, and boom, we were playing Unreal Tournament.
And I did stuff like that. I also had a program called Bleem. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes.
It would allow you to play PlayStation games on a PC.
Okay.
They also made a version for the Dreamcast.
Oh, okay, nice. But I used to have that, and I used to rip PlayStation games and be able to play them on my PC. I did that, but I didn't do it. I didn't do hundreds of games. I needed a freaking like 64 count CD folder for them all.
Well, so there was a couple of side effects of all of that I realized, which was and you'll realize this quickly if you ever download a MAME emulator, an arcade emulator, and all of a sudden you've got 500 games at your disposal, all this sort of thing. But what eventually happened was that you just never got good at any games. You never appreciated a game because the second you got bored or something became too challenging, you just would switch over to the next game. I want to try that one. I want to try that one, and it's almost like you got this ADD, where you just can't focus on getting one game done. You know what I mean? And and I feel like that's it's a kind of a pity in a way, because just the torture that we went through to get through those old Nintendo games and the SNES games and all of that, it built character in a person. I think it built a certain level of patience in you.
Right.
If you're able to sit there and actually make your way through a game.
You're correct. You're 100% correct. Like I caught myself doing that where I'm like, I hit a road bump. It's kind of like that movie. It's like in that movie Bug's Life where they're like the ants freak out because there's like a stick in the way, and they're like, and like the one smart ant is like, go around it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I hit that a number of times. So like, but you're able to kind of tell yourself like, all right, like this game is actually pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and like go through it. Like, and for the record, I purchased a number of video games entirely because I actually enjoyed them. Like a lot of the games I have that are burned copies, I'm like, if I found the game for $1, I'd probably replace it, but I'm not gonna go spend $40-$50. Like I'm pretty sure, I think I actually did that with Marvel vs. Capcom. Then I ended up finding it at Target or whatever or something like that, and I think I still have a sealed copy somewhere of the Dreamcast version.
Yeah, look, I so there was a time where I feel like the pirating, and particularly with movies and things like that, it sort of came about. When it first happened with Napster and uTorrent and all this sort of stuff, it was there was a bit of a grey area, but also we were, frankly, in Australia at least, we were getting absolutely ripped off by a lot of the shops. They would way overcharge for certain things to where it just became inaccessible to most people. So you turned to being a pirate and that sort of thing. I'm not trying to justify it, but I sort of am, But
I'm going to hold up in a court of law.
Yeah.
I think statute of limitations.
I was about to say that statute of limitations, surely, but we like what's I going to say? As the years went on and I started becoming a creator myself and putting things out there, I really dawned on me, people are probably going to be pirating stuff that I make, because they can't afford to pay for it, or they just want to check it out, or whatever it might be. And fair enough, but I made a choice myself to not continue to do that anymore, you know. And that came about once, you know, once Netflix did its thing, you know, once things started to become more accessible. And you know, I think trade paperbacks are very fairly priced for the most part. You know, you get a better quality product, all that sort of thing. So I was happy to go with that sort of thing. So now I make a point of, you know, really buying everything that I really want to check out and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, you know, we've all been young 20-year-olds that couldn't afford stuff, you know, in our past lives. So.
Right,
Exactly.
and that's it. Is there was that weird gray area, and there was that, like, you know, legally you can own a backup copy of anything you own, right? Like, so there was that whole like legal gray area where everything was kind of like that, but it was, you know, we all made a whole bunch of mistakes, and I realized the same thing. Like, I make it sound like it was a long period of time, but if you look back at the dates, like it's like a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where that's why I would go buy the game if I really liked it. Like, you know, Napster or whatever, like, oh, I downloaded these songs. Okay, yeah, okay, I'll go buy the CD, right? Like, because you do like, not a lot of people did that, right? Like, that is actually the minority, and that's why it got kind of such a bad rap. And, you know, one of the more famous movies out there to get hit by that was Kick-Ass 2.
Oh, okay.
The movie Kick-Ass 2 got released on websites and ways to abscond it for free, illegally, before the movie even came out in theaters. So it was able to be watched at your house for if you had no scruples before that, and it did horrible in the theaters. So, but it had like amazing ratings.
That's the way
all the
movies
actors,
were done.
right? Like, all the actors and actresses in the movie are like, "We're glad you liked the movie, but you didn't go see it, so we didn't get a green light for the third one."
Right.
That's what happened with
shot yourself in the foot here, guys.
That's what happened with X-Men Origins Wolverine. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That got leaked online with like there was like hardly any CGI in it, if any. Like, there's a part where like the helicopter crashes, and it's literally like a drawing board or a storyboard pictures of it crashing.
Oh,
and
I remember hearing about it.
Like, Wolverine's like, oh, like there's no claws and stuff. Hugh Jackman's doing that, and I think at that point the people making it were just like, well, fuck this, and like that's why the CGI is so shoddy in the movie, because it's like,
really?
You know, the whole thing leaked online, and people were just watching it online without any of the CGI. And like that, if you look at it, that was one of the most terrible like CGI movies for like
right
of the time, because I don't know if you remember, but like Wolverine's claws were like they were freaking huge, and they were coming out of his hand at like the wrong, instead of like coming out like this, they were like at the wrong angle and stuff like that. It's like you could tell they were just like, well, our work got leaked, so fuck this. Why should we care? You know, or something. But it was crazy.
My Leave It to Beaver sort of outlook on life tells me that hopefully now, you know, hopefully people have realized that the audience, we have a lot of power in what does get made, and that comes from what we actually pay for, what we actually put money into. So if we support things with our dollars, then we're going to get more of the good stuff, you know. That's one side of it, and then, you know, the you do have to have a bit of a conscience, you know, particularly with I don't know. There's like, you look at a lot of comic books that are creator owned and that sort of thing, and these aren't people that are making tons of money, you know. When we're not like big Hollywood companies or anything, it's just a person making a you know, a thing. For the most part, it might be just this is how they pay their bills, you know. And I don't know. You want to. I'm not saying this as an artist. I'm saying it as a consumer. I want to support those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've talked about it before. Like, I've been going to conventions for a long period of time, and I went in early on in the mindset of, why does this cost $50? Why does this cost $100? Like, I can't comprehend it. And then it took like, and I was late 20s, early, you know, I'd say late 20s. And I still, like, it hadn't clicked to me, but like, I had moved past like the, you know, I realized like supporting the artists, like from like a video game and movie standpoint, but like artists, like it hadn't clicked for some reason, and like it took a couple years, but it clicked now. But that's exactly correct. Is somebody put time and money, effort into making that, right?
Yeah.
Into making this comic, this movie, this TV show, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not the artistic guy on our team. That's Mike. I openly admit this. He gets all the credit for that stuff. So I was like, oh, that's great. I'm like, Mike, that freaking handed it, right? Like, I give him thumbs up and like critiques on it, but beyond that, I don't do any of it. I have full and utter appreciation for all the people that do it, like yourself, like Mike, all the guests that we've had on that are artists in whatever form they're artists in, right? Sculptors, actors, voice people, like whatever they are. I have full and utter appreciation for it because of that fact. It's like people are pouring their heart and soul into it. Have I met some people where you could tell they're definitely jaded and they're not doing that anymore and they're definitely there collecting a paycheck? I have met some of them.
Yeah.
Do they get a lot of my money? They do not. But that's kind of the thing, is like there's so many people out there that are doing it for the absolute love of the art, whatever it is.
Yeah, comics is 100% one of those things that you like. I think it would be an impossible job to do if you didn't love doing it. I mean, look, I've dabbled in toy design. I've worked in computer games. I've done animation designs. I've worked in all of these other fields, and you get paid infinitely more for less work. It's if I was wired differently, that's the kind of work that I would probably be pursuing more. But I can guarantee you don't get the same satisfaction as somebody who loves making this as I do when a book like Neverlanders comes out, and it's something that Tom and I have created together. These are our creations, and I've now seen kids cosplaying as these characters,
Oh, that's awesome.
Or,
that's nice.
Cool. Or people will come and talk to me about, this thing in the story, are we going to find out more about what's happening here? I think you're going to do this or that. And I love that, because for me, the greatest feeling, one of the greatest feelings that you can have, especially as a creative person, is feeling inspiration. When you see something that inspires you and makes you want to go and create something, that feeling is priceless. It's amazing, like this is me at the arcade watching people playing Street Fighter and wanting to catch that bus home so I could sit down and draw what I'd seen. That level of inspiration.
Yeah.
And my goal was always, I hope I get to the level where I can do this for other people, where I can create inspiration in other artists and that sort of thing. And I'm old enough now. I got enough white hairs in my beard to say that I have seen that happen now. I've had the kids that have come up to me and they've told me, and I've seen it happen. I've seen, tons of people copying my art and posting it, and they share it with me, and all that sort of stuff. And it's beautiful. Like they're the things that I get me excited about the stuff that we do. It's a human connection in a way, that you don't get in any other sort of a way. It's nice to see. But anyway, that's my Jerry Seinfeld thought of the day. I don't know. Do you want me to tell you some of these SNES games? Because I want to see if you guys had much of a connection with these. But these are the big ones that I remember from my collection that I love the most. Okay, so obviously Mario World, we mentioned that one.
Yeah.
Zelda, Link to the Past. You couldn't have a SNES and not play that game.
It's actually my favorite one.
Yeah. So that was the first Zelda game that I played. I didn't play the ones on the NES.
Huh.
And just absolutely mind blowing as well. Just the idea of a story, an RPG, like going through it and find this, find that. Love it. Anyway, very iconic. UN Squadron. Did you ever play that game?
No, never heard of that one.
Oh, UN Squadron. Okay, so UN Squadron was based on a manga, which was called Area 88, and the game was just a side-scrolling shooter, but it's made by Capcom, so the music is on that same Mega Man level.
Top
The
point,
music
yeah.
is awesome, and it was really challenging, but you just felt like you were reaching, I don't know, gamer god tier when you could get, make your way through all the bullets and everything and actually complete this game. Anyway, really cool game. Street Fighter 2, obviously everyone had that.
Yeah.
Tetris Attack. You ever heard of this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Same group of friends. Tetris Attack. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. But yeah, Tetris Attack was a great, wonderful game.
So addictive, and so that game's interesting because anyone who's got the Virtual Console now on your Switch, that game is actually on there on the SNES, but it's the Japanese version. Which
interesting.
If you know the game, you can still play it because you know exactly what all the buttons do, even though they're all in Japanese.
Yeah.
But what was really cool with the English version is that they changed all of the characters because in the Japanese one they're all these like fairy ladies and stuff like that. It's not the Nintendo characters.
Interesting.
So with the English one, they changed all the characters to all the different bosses and characters from the Nintendo world, from Mario's world.
Yeah.
But it kept the music the same and everything. Anyway,
nice.
that was a very cool game, very addictive. Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah, of course.
So good, awesome games. Music.
All three of them.
I'll tell you something that spins me out about that, because Rare has been one of those companies that they were synonymous with Nintendo for a while there, and created some of the best games. Again, very influential and on me in that sort of way. But just through Twitter, I've sort of had some interaction with one of the main lead design guys from Rare, and I just get that little pang of excitement every time that he retweets one of my drawings or something like that. I'm like, oh man, that's the guy. That's the dude from Rare, man. That's so cool.
Nice. That's the guy.
Anyway, TMNT Tournament Fighters.
Oh, Jesus.
I loved that game so much. That was another one of those ones that like my friends and I would just like rent all the time. We rented a lot of fighting games.
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean, fighting games were huge back then too.
They were.
Yeah. It was actually the first. The Switch released a collection of Turtles games.
Oh yeah.
And it had like all of the different versions of the Tournament Fighters game on there, like the Super Nintendo, the Sega one, whatever. And it was like the first one I played.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I am not as good as
On a side note, I bought that cartridge. I bought that game because when we were at Granite just last September, walking the streets of New Hampshire with Camillo and Freddie, and Camillo very excitedly told me, "Oh, John, your artwork is in this game." And I go, "Really? Which game?" He's like, "Oh, the Cowabunga collection." And I go, "Really? They put my..." He goes, "Yeah, it's got like a gallery with all the comic book covers that we've done, and Freddie's stuff is in there too. It's really cool." I was like, "Oh, okay, nice. I'll have to buy it so I can check it out." Anyway, I buy the game. I go to the comic gallery and look through, and there's not a single Jon Sommariva cover to be seen in there, which I was very upset about. So Camillo false advertised to me, and the next time I saw him, I was like, "Hey, you made me buy that freaking game, man, and my artwork's not even in there." And now here's the thing. Normally, you'd be excited to play those games, like the TMNT arcade game. It's a classic. It's awesome. We all love playing that game. But I've been spending a lot of time playing Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, yeah.
And that game blows all of those other games away.
Dude,
you actually can't go back now. Nostalgia be damned. It doesn't matter. This game is better. Like, Shredder's Revenge is the best version of a Turtles beat 'em up that you can get.
My daughter's 5. My daughter's 5, and her and I beat that game.
Oh, really?
It was not easy because she's 5. Okay, but yeah, her and I beat it together, and she was all like happy and proud, and like That last battle with Shredder was a pain in the ass.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like you figure out all the patterns and all that sort of stuff, and it works well. But I actually play it online every now and then. Like I'll jump on there.
Nice.
One of the achievements that you can unlock is you have to beat the arcade game on the super hard mode. And so one of these days when I get a chance, because you can jump on and you get like 6 people, they'll jump on at the same time and you all play through the arcade together. And some of the players are actually really good, so they help you out, you know.
You gotta play. I just looked it up because I was like, can't you play 6 players? Isn't that like one of the best parts about that game? And I was like,
I didn't know that.
I just looked it up. You can actually play 6-player local.
Yeah. So, Usagi's really good in the game too. If you get the DLC, like he's they made Karai him really. Yeah, Karai and Usagi, he's quite powerful in it. All right, what do we got here? Dr. Mario Tetris. There was like a combo game.
Yeah.
Yep. You sort of would flip between the two games. We so with this one, well, I had some funny nights with that one, but my friends would all get together and have a tournament with that. And we were grown-ups by the time we were playing this, and we would make like the most disgusting shot that you could come up with. So we'd put like, wine and whiskey and, just all these weird concoctions put together. And the loser had to take the shot, and the thing is, it would actually make you a worse player the more shots that you got. So people were they were messy nights. Anyway, we don't need to go into that. All right, Stunt Race Effects. Episode. Do you remember that one? Stunt Race Effects.
Oh yeah, with the 3D. Yeah, it was like billed as like one of the first 3D chip games or whatever. That game was. Yeah, no, that's the one where you're on like the bicycle, right? Or it's like a weird.
You might be thinking of a different game. So Stunt Race Effects is one of the first 3D ones, like you said. I think the first one was Star Fox, but then this one came out shortly after.
Shit, Star Fox. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, yeah.
You had like 4 vehicles in this one, so you could be like a little yellow coupe. Then there was a big blue Jeep. There was a Formula One sort of car. Maybe it was only 3. It was the clunkiest game you could ever imagine, because we're talking about 16-bit 3D here. Like, how the hell did they pull that off? But if you got into it and you figured out the timing of it, because it was really almost laggy the way that it played. But if you figured out the timing of it, it actually was a really cool game. Like, you could actually get really good at those tracks. And this was the precursor to what became Mario 64 later on, I think. They figured out how to do racing really well with that sort of game. But anyway, that was a fun one.
I remember that game. It's not the one I was thinking of immediately off the bat.
Were you thinking of the unicycle one? Is that the one that you were thinking of?
Yes, that's exactly it. Uniracers.
Yeah, I remember that one as well. We actually spent quite a lot of time on that game. I only just remembered just then when you were talking about it, because I was like, that's right, there was that unicycle sort of game. Yeah. Man, there were so many good games on this thing, the SNES. It was such an awesome system. All right, so later on in the life cycle of the SNES, they did Yoshi's Island, which was basically the sequel to Mario World. Yeah. And so much imagination in that game, and they were able to use the Mode 7 to create really large boss characters and all that sort of thing. But it had that really annoying Mario baby cry throughout the game.
Oh my god, I hated that. I think that might have actually been one of the first games I played with the sound either really low or off. Like, I hated that baby Mario cry anytime he fell off. And like now I've got a baby upstairs, literally, so it's like I can't escape it now, but I can't mute him.
That game, that sound, that particular sound, it is parent repellent. Okay, if your parents heard that game, if you played that game for 5 minutes, guaranteed they would come and say, "Turn that shit off, put the volume off, do something. I can't handle it." Now, funnily enough, during the pandemic, I had a SNES Mini, and that game was on it, and I was playing it, and it was literally the first game as a 3-year-old that my son actually picked up the controller and started showing interest in playing a game.
Nice.
And at first I was like, "Oh, you got to press that button, you got to jump, you got to do this." Within a week, he was an expert. I couldn't believe it.
Geez,
I
that's
saw the
awesome.
transformation happen. But I had to listen to that baby crying a lot. And it actually worked on me as a parent this time, because I cannot stand hearing that Mario baby cry. There's like a primal instinct that wakes up in you when you hear that crying sound. It's full alert. You're on full alert. The house is on fire. Something's going on. I got to save this kid now. When you hear that sound, you know what I mean? And that's what it's annoying when it's a false alarm.
Yeah, true.
But that game was a very different avenue and like a weird sequel to the first one. Like, the art style was totally different, but I dug it even as a kid. Like, it was one of the, like, I think I beat that probably, like, I sat down and obsessively played that game.
Yeah.
I think it took me all of like a week to beat it, because
a week? That's pretty quick.
Yeah, like it was like I've talked about it a number of times. I was not the best student, and that game did not help.
This one I might be on a limb by myself, I'm not sure, but it just depends how your brain works, I guess. But did you used to make up lyrics to the songs in games?
Sometimes. Sometimes I made up song lyrics. Sometimes I rewrite song lyrics in my brain.
I'm not gonna like start singing any of them or anything like that. So don't worry, Mike. But to me when I think about the music in some of those games, it just goes hand in hand with some stupid line that we used to say, but it always went to the music. And so, with my circle of friends, we'll just randomly say one of these lines and we know exactly what we're talking about at the time.
Nice.
Have a little giggle to ourselves, All right, I got two more here that are worth mentioning. Pilot Wings. That was how the hell have they not made a Pilot Wings for the Switch, like a new version of Pilot Wings with what you could do? I don't know if there's not enough demand for it, but I love airplane games.
I think it's because the DS version didn't do super well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. It was on 3DS, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a 3DS version. I never got around to playing it. I think I picked it up at like a Sears or something like that.
Okay.
Whatever. But I haven't played it. But I remember playing Pilot Wings, because when you went to went to the rental store, they didn't have like all of the games. They only had 10 or 15 or whatever. So sometimes you ended up renting the same copy of video games a lot. Yeah, but Pilot Wings was a fun game.
Okay. Yeah, that was one that I ended up under very random circumstances, but basically there was a kid at school, and he somehow ended up with a bunch of games, and I bought that one off him for like $5. So it was a bargain. I didn't even care what the game was. I was like, "What? $5 for a game?
Yeah, $5. It's like, sure. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, but
even
then,
now,
then we played it, and it was actually awesome. Like I love doing the jetpack levels and all that sort of stuff. And there was some really cool stuff that would happen. Like if you aced a particular level, you'd go to these weird version like game modes where you'd be dressed up as an albatross or a penguin, and you had to do other weird activities.
I don't think I ever got that good.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, I'm a bit obsessive with games. Like I like to do 100% on them. Like Crossy Road these days. Crossy Road is my addiction on the phone, and I do. There's this thing called pecking order, which is a daily challenge, and I always love to be top of the ranking board.
Nice.
But anyway, all right. The final game. You're probably not going to recognize this name because this is the name that we knew it as here in Australia. It was Probotector. Does that ring a bell?
What is it?
Probotector. The stupidest name ever. The real name of the game is Contra 3.
Oh, geez. How'd they come up with that name?
Well, okay, so in Australia, it was called Probotector. Now, the reason they did that is because they thought that Contra was too violent if you had humans that were actually shooting things. And so in our version, they're actually 2 robot characters.
Okay.
Instead of humans. Yeah, and then, I don't know. It was some weird thing that I think they did in the UK, and Australia just copied. And so we ended up with that version of it. But you can now buy the Contra collection on the Switch, and you can play the really violent human version.
As it should be. I'm surprised since you had at least Zelda on there. I'm surprised like Chrono Trigger or was it Harvest Moon didn't make it on there.
Never played those. No, never played those.
Chrono Trigger is like
Secret of Mana. I did have Secret of Mana.
Secret of Mana. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was a good one too.
So we talked about it earlier. Squaresoft RPGs. All my buddies were obsessed with Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger, and I was in love with Secret of Mana.
Yeah,
like, I love that game. I've played it upside down, inside out, like hundreds of hours.
He's about to show you folks what it's all about.
Exactly. I still have I got the strategy guide still packed away somewhere. Still have the same copy. Like we talked about video games being way too much money. I saved up like Christmas and birthday and ended up going to like Walmart and was like had like $85 and was able to buy it for like I think it was $70. And I gladly paid $70 for Secret of Mana, and I would do it again.
Yeah, didn't they re-release it recently, or they've done a remix or something?
So they did a remake probably 10 years ago now for the PlayStation 4, but they did it in a 3D style.
Okay.
So it's not like sprites anymore. Like
okay.
And the soundtrack, which was one of the killer parts of that freaking game, they redid it, so it like threw a lot of people off. Like it's still a fun game, but it's not the same.
Right.
They did come out with a Secret of Mana collection that has the emulator, like the direct port of that, as well as Seiken Densetsu 3, the one from Japan, which was like Secret of Mana 2.
Oh, okay.
And
interesting.
I think,
there you go.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was my jam, because multiplayer RPG was incredible.
Oh, it was so cool. Yeah, we definitely had a lot of fun with that.
That was one of the highlights. But yeah,
did you play 3-player? Did you get the multi-tap and play 3-player?
No, we didn't. We just did the 2-player one. But yeah, I remember you could do that. Yeah.
Even 2-player.
Nick's assuming we had more than one friend growing up. Jesus, Nick.
Look.
You can definitely see a lot of Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 9 in my style as well. I think, with just the proportions of the characters and the fantasy elements and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
big influence for sure.
Yeah,
it's beautiful is what it is.
It's funny that you bring that up, because we talked about that game recently too. It's like that was mine. That was my big RPG for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like gravitate to that one too. There was so many good RPGs when Super Nintendo came out. Like, holy shit!
Super Mario RPG.
Super Mario RPG was pretty good too.
Yeah. That is one of the few Mario games that I never played, actually. That I've never played or got into. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it just wasn't accessible at the time, or moved on to other things or something. I've got no idea. But yeah,
it did come out later in the life cycle of Super Nintendo, because it really pushed the limits of the video game. But one of the best parts about that is like a frying pan is a weapon.
No, really,
as it should be. As it should be.
Right? It's like the Super Nintendo did just have a large quantity then and now of games that were just phenomenal. They had a great It was a great update from the regular Nintendo, and it didn't lose any of that difficulty, if you will. Like Contra 3, like what that game is insanely hard. Like
it is, yeah.
Contra 1 was a pain in the butt, and Super C for Nintendo was just equally as painful. But Contra 3 was like, they were like, all right, so we know you guys hated the first two, they were super hard, but what if we crank it to 11 and make it harder? Like,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten past like the second level.
Oh really? Oh well, I've definitely, we used to complete it quite often. My younger brother's actually become a bit of a speed runner on that game, so he does the full speed run thing and tries to complete it with one life and all that sort of thing. But no, it's that game was fantastic. It had the graphics and it had the music and the whole thing. So probably one of Konami's best games, I would say, on the SNES. I'm not sure. I mean, they did a lot of pretty cool conversions of the beat 'em up games and that sort of thing, but I think that might have been their best game on the SNES.
Realistically, it was just training you just to survive the wildlife in Australia. That's all. That's all it boils down to. But
step one, become a robot.
Exactly.
Step one, yeah.
Do you remember the first? I think the first boss, it's like this big giant turtle that shoots like garlic bulbs.
Yeah, something like that.
Weird,
yeah. It's definitely some wild concepts.
Well, that's a real creature here in Australia. I'll just have you know.
Oh yeah, is it Bulbasaur?
Yeah, the garlic shooter kills vampires.
Right behind the snail.
You guys have vampires too? Jesus Christ!
That's how our koalas at night, they turn into vampires.
That'd be scary. That's an idea for a comic. Just saying.
Or at least a creature in Neverlanders.
Out of all this. We didn't even touch on like Game Genie or Nintendo Power, man. So we're probably gonna have to have you come back for round 2 at this point.
I still have all my Nintendo Powers, and this shocks nobody at this point.
I feel like there's a thousand different topics that I could go down the rabbit hole on with all of this stuff, you know, because I'm very passionate about the things that, you know, inspired me and that I grew up in and all that. But I can say that that Nintendo and gaming in general has been just that one constant that's been with me throughout my whole life, you know, from my childhood up until now, because I'm still playing SNES and still playing
that's badass, man.
Switch and all that. So yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, but John, before you go, tell everybody where they can find you and all the fun stuff that you have going on right now.
Yeah, cool. All right, so well, you can find me online. I'm on all the major social media platforms. So it's just my last name at Sommariva. People always wonder how you pronounce that. It's SOMMARIVA, Sommariva. And then Jon Sommariva on Twitter, and I'm at RedJArt on Facebook. And I've got an online store where you can pick up some of my goodies if you feel like it. So I've got prints and stickers and all that fun stuff. And every now and then I open the vaults and put a little bit of original art out there. But we hopefully will be making something available for the people here, right? Once this episode is out.
Maybe something.
Hell yeah, keep an eye out on social media.
If all things went right, then they would have been watching me draw during this whole interview as well. So gonna do something cool for it.
Now we'll have to do it a second time. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on your store.
As far as stuff that I'm working on right now, so Neverlanders is out now. This is my baby, and working on part 2 right now. Definitely highly recommend reading it. Tom Taylor's doing some brilliant work at the moment in the comic industry, and it's a book that's not just worth buying and putting on the stack, but actually reading. So it's pretty cool. I'm doing a bunch of Ninja Turtle covers at the moment. I'm fitting those into the schedule because I want to have stuff in time for Granite. By the time Granite rolls around this year, I'm going to be a guest there again, so I'll be back in September. And yeah, hopefully I'll have some cool stuff to sign for you guys. Is the TMNT Usagi crossover, which has just been announced. I've done a variant cover for that, and Stan
Nice.
Sakai and Kevin Eastman are both going to be at the show as well, so you can get those guys to sign that one as well if you want. And aside from that, I've got a top secret project coming out from DC Comics, which will be announced very soon, but I have no idea when, so I can't say much more than keep an eye out for that. But it's actually, let's do this little teaser. It's games related in some way. Ooh.
Nice.
Fancy.
All right, that's a lot. People have a lot of homework to do, and they better get on it.
Thank you so much for having me, though, guys. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Sean. That's great.
The time flew by, like I said, and yeah, maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Hell yeah.